Right, so hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about the preseason and the victory track meta. Effectively this is going to be just about the same as the Gladiator Circuit week 1 and 2 meta with a little bit of a difference. So first of all, let's break down the meta and then we can discuss some potential MVPs. Tomorrow after the season starts I will show you guys my deck that I use for this meta as well. Additionally, tomorrow I will make a video about the weeks 3 and 4 meta for Gladiator Circuit. So first of all, we have stunning performance, and this is a node that makes this effectively a mutant meta. Some mutants are so busted in this meta, it's ridiculous. Whenever a mutant attacker's parry stun is purified, cleansed, or prevented due to ability accuracy, they instead inflict the stun passive for 3 seconds, unaffected by ability accuracy. If the attacker activates special attack while this stun is active, pause it, and the attacker gains 300% attack rating for the duration of the special attack. And that makes this just about any mutant a nuke champion in this meta. It's brutal. Obviously, largely allowing you to ignore the palette cleanser. So, whenever either champion gains bar power, the defender gains 2 stacks of cleanse passive lasting 10 seconds. Now, these cleanse passives are incredibly annoying, and they basically immediately invalidate quite a few champions because there's going to be a ton of, cleansing. So, debuff reliant champions will either work significantly worse or not work at all. On top of it all, we have Hurt Locker, which initially didn't seem that big of a deal, but after playing it, it is, because it messes with a ton of champion rotations. For instance, many champions that would typically spam level 1 are unable to do so. So for instance, using somebody like Shuri is slower. You can still do it, and Shuri is still usable this meta, but you can't just, spam your level 1s, get your guaranteed crits, and go ham. So, and you often just kind of forget about it in the heat of the battle when something goes wrong. It's very easy to forget about this. So it is a fairly tricky situation. And to make it more fun, in the Gladiator Circuit, we're also going to have to deal with encroaching root, where every 16 seconds the attacker is passively rooted for 4 seconds unless they are performing special attack when the timer expires. This effectively making it incredibly similar to one of the Alliance War nodes as well. So, few meaningful things. Skill class in this meta is very, very bad. I think I'm just running about 1 skill champion in this meta. I might add another one. But the point is, number 1, mutant attackers are insanely fast and powerful, on top of the fact that there's a lot of them. So, skill defenders, which is what most of the good skill science champions are at the moment in the game, are significantly weaker than normal. On top of it all, most of the skill champions also rely on landing your debuffs. So skill class is very weak. Tech class is kind of fine. You can find champions to use, even though they're still kind of hindered. Mutants, just about any ranked up mutant that you do have, and I'm going to point out a few specifically, is going to be insane. Science class is also heavily hindered, obviously because of the huge reliance to the debuffs. Then we have Mystic class, and that's kind of fine for the most part. There are Mystic champions that do well enough. And Cosmics, again, some champions do work well enough here. So, let's first of all, from skill class, the only skill champions I'm running actually is just the Crossbones. At the moment, I'm just running Crossbones. Crossbones, they're mainly for Photon. And that's kind of about it. Because he nukes Photon very, very well. And you don't rely on debuffs at all. And if you want to, you can go level 1, level 2. And that typically is also, or can be enough to finish up the fight. So, I think Deadpool X-Force is just about the best champion in this meta. Because when your parry stun gets cleansed, then you do get that passive stun. You can effectively land your 4-hit combo and start a new one within that window. So you can rack up your charges very, very quickly. And the only thing you have to do is make sure that the opponent is stunned when you activate your level 1. and everybody will die. I'm quite literally having 20-second fights with Deadpool X-Force. It is ridiculous. Any matchup that he can do, that you can bleed your opponent, easy. And, he can still do the non-bleed matchups with his longer rotation, but that takes significantly longer. But if it bleeds, Deadpool X-Force can do it in like 20 seconds. Mr. Sinister is a bit slower, and Mr. Sinister is significantly worse on defense because he purifies his own bleeds. He cleanses his own bleeds due to the nodes, but he can still stall well enough due to his regen. And on top of it all, a single level 1 can basically finish the fight. That's how OP it is. It takes a bit of getting used to use him because of the hurt locker. You need to keep that in mind. But he's still incredibly powerful too. Then we have obviously Kitty Pryde apparently is making a comeback. I'm not using her personally, but I do hear from quite a few people that, yeah, all you need is a couple of level 1s and you're basically good. And it's quite easy to make it happen. So evidently Kitty Pryde is doing quite well. Jean Grey is an insane monster. No questions asked. Then we do have Iceman, still doing quite well too, especially with his initial cold snap, and then, getting the attack bonus, and him having his matchup. Dazzler is crazy good. Nukes just about everything. There's obviously Gentle, Bishop, 1 level 2, and most things die. Dust is awesome to have because she ramps up quicker, obviously gets the 300% increase in the damage, and also works as a defender. And then Negasonic, again, is very, very fast thanks to the increase in the damage. So that was the crossbones. But most of the mutants, there are still many, many more mutants that, are usable or can work great. Obviously, there's still Domino. Gentle, sure, why not? He can destroy fools. Obviously, I didn't really mention, but Onslaught works every meta, and this is not an exception. I think Notstar probably does even well enough too. I wouldn't be surprised if like Nightcrawler is in people's decks, and yeah, most mutants just do well. So then Hitmonkey is another champion in skill class that could work if you do feel enticed to run him, but again, skill class is just absolutely destroyed in this meta. Moving on to the tech class, some of the best champs definitely Shocker, because Shocker still reduces the passive stun duration, so it can catch people off guard even when they are using mutants. And his level 2 stun is passive, so you do not need to worry about cleanse charges, and he basically works as normal, so that is super valuable. So Shocker is very, very good. I'm even running my 6-star for this, Starkhand Spider-Man. The only real debuffs that you kind of rely on would be the level 1 stuns that you will have to do without, and the taunt, but for most part, you'll still be just fine. He's still going to be a nuke. He can cover quite a few matchups that, your mutants will not be able to. Shuri is quite good to have in this meta. As I mentioned before, you cannot spam your level 1. It is going to be a slower affair, where you need to go to level 1, level 2 type of rotation. But the cool thing for Shuri is that she has non-contact attacks, so many of the mutants would struggle against her because they can't parry her, and with that, they do not get the attack increase, so she does have her value in the game. And then obviously Photon, again, it's mainly as a defender, but offensively she sort of kind of works because her ramp up is not necessarily tied to the debuff sticking on the opponent, so you can still finish the matches. It will still be slower than normal because that does affect your damage still, especially the level 1 debuffs, but you can still use her offensively well enough, I would say. And then we have Hulk, kind of similar situation. He can be, somewhat half decent defender, but for most part, it's mainly the fact that he can work offensively, half decent too, similar to Titania. Again, she still gets her furies from applying the debuffs, and if you are trying hard enough, you can make it work, but it's not the easiest thing to do. Silk applies enough debuffs to overcome the cleanses, but her damage is again lower than normally it would be. Then we have She-Hulk. If you do have a 7-star She-Hulk, she might be one of the better 7-star champions to run because she doesn't really rely on those debuffs outside of, applying slow in the matchup that you need. But in generic matchup, her damage comes from passive furies and making opponent more aggressive and having fast-paced fights. And you can still do that even with all the cleanse active. Then in the Mystic class, Enchantress is more annoying than normal, again because you can't parry her. and that, you know, could present problems with the knockdown and all the nodes interacting. Obviously, you do need to protect her from the mutant champions because many mutants will nuke her, but she can still, obviously, as always, be a pain. We have Chavez, and she mainly relies on her passive stun, so she's virtually unimpeded in what she does, so that's quite good. And then obviously we have Shatra, again, doesn't rely on any debuffs specifically, so very good. She functions normally. Jugs, oh my god, I love Jugs. Jugs still A+ champion, absolutely no issues. In the Cosmic class, Deathless Thanos, the trick with Deathless Thanos is you obviously do want to throw your heavy attack before the first cleanse charges go active, and then afterwards, you know, just spamming your level 1s, getting those furies, pausing your armor shatter, he can function well enough. And one of the cool things is he's much harder to nuke down because of his protection, so he's also a solid defender. Serpent is one of the best defenders in this meta, primarily because of this ability. So when opponent activates special attack, he gains stun immunity, so none of the mutants can nuke him at all. So it's only his like generic regular counters. So Serpent's definitely very powerful in this meta. Nova was just about fine. As defender, as attacker, he's slightly harder to parry, and he does have damage mitigation mechanics in his kit as well. And on top of it all, you can use him offensively because he's quite solid attacker and does not necessarily rely on debuffs to do damage. Hulkling is again another champion that even at 6-star I do find it worth to give a shout out for a few reasons. Number one, in between his indestructible charge popping up and him doing quite a bit of block damage, he can be defensively better than most champions, especially against mutants. He can inflict block damage, force people to play around indestructible, and hopefully make them waste a special attack, for instance. And then offensively, again, he doesn't rely on having debuffs, so he can still be used as normal, basically. And also, Maestro is quite good because he's glancing with effectively opponents not being able to parry him proper. And him being able to purify debuffs on him kind of shuts down more of the counters too. And if he's awakened, you can actually get half decent results from him offensively. Obviously, this is just still a result of my preliminary testing, and I will be adjusting my deck and so on and so forth. But as much as I have played this meta, I'm gonna say I'm not a big fan of it, just because there are like 3 to 4 tiers of fights in this meta, and it's so draft dependent, because if you have mutant attackers against matchups that they can do, you win. You know, there's just not much you can do. If you get the right mutant nuke, there's nothing you can do. And then there will be times when your mutant attackers will not be able to tackle the defenders like at all due to some specific requirements, like Serpent, for instance, and then you just lose. Because you have drafted mutants, your opponent drafted serpents. If you do not get countered towards the end, you're done. And then you might think that you want to draft counters to the toughest matchups in the game, like Serpent, like Photon, so on and so forth. But if your opponent drafts mutants and you don't get the right defenders, you cooked. So it's a very rock, paper, scissors type of meta for the most part. And then obviously the cleanse can mess you up, and there are skill expressions in the meta, but combined by making one class so ridiculously overpowered and effectively excluding 2 classes from this meta completely in the skill and science class, have made very lopsided rock, paper, scissors game, in my opinion, which I am personally not a big fan of, and I'm incredibly glad this isn't the final meta of a season. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the next